Hello there and welcome to Classic Fight Watchalong here on Balls.ie in association with Ladbrokes, where every week me, Mick McCarthy, and the far more qualified Jason Quigley will look back on a classic fight, watch the fight in full, talk about it as it's happening, and we want you to do the same too. They're all freely available on YouTube most of the time, and this week we're going to start with an absolute classic, Jason. Naseem Hamed versus Marco Antonio Barrera from almost 20 years ago. We'll get to all that in a few minutes, but we haven't talked to you in a while. Jason, you've been out of the ring. We've had a few kind of missteps along the way. You were hoping to have a fight last month, and it didn't happen. But I think we're going to be talking about you in terms of your current career and fighting a lot more in the next few weeks, I'd say.
Yeah, without a doubt. I've obviously with the whole COVID thing going on, it's interrupted a lot of athletes and boxers as well. But I've been working with my team. We have plans set in place, and there's going to be some exciting news coming very shortly. And there's going to be one busy year. I have a lot of time to catch up on, so it's going to be a very busy year this year, and I'm excited and looking forward to it.
You have Barrera, who's like had about 50 fights by this stage, despite only being 27. And the biggest test for Naseem Hamed, who'd sauntered his way through a career that he started when he was 17 as well and had an unbelievable record. Now, we're going to press play in this in a few minutes, and we'll talk about we'll talk about the fight itself as we're happening and everything else around it. But you did tell us last year that this was the fight that made you want to be a boxer. You were what, 8 at the time, 9?
Yeah, so this is the fight. Like once we came up with this idea and to do something to watch a fight back, I had to like. This is the fight that I started boxing over. This is the first time that I've ever stayed up real late to watch a fight. Like it was 3, 4 in the morning job over in the MGM Grand in Vegas, and I remember just fighting to sleep, trying to stay awake for the fight. And I loved Barrera anyway. He was a favorite fighter of mine, even at that young age. But it was such a class of styles. Like you're having the cocky, brash English British lad, Prince Nassim Hamed, coming through, just absolutely everything Barrera has done, showing him no respect whatsoever. And then you have Barrera, everyone knowing the warrior that he is,
Yeah.
and how cool and calm and collected he is coming through press conferences, training camps, everything like that. He came in with such an unbelievable mindset into that fight and such a quiet personality that nobody expected, and he shook the world.
Absolutely. Well, let's watch it then, because if you are able to watch along too, I'm sure you'll be able to follow along if you can't. But if you just go to YouTube, type in Barrera v Hamed, even Barrera v Hamed will do it. Marco Antonio Barrera versus Prince Naseem Hamed. There's a 52-minute and 18-second video just to make sure that you're on the right one that's there. And if you just get past all the ads and everything like that, you're ready to go and press play. I don't think there is any ads at the start, actually. And if you want to press play, me and Jason are going to press play in 3, 2, 1, play. So we'll see Bob Papa there, which is an incredibly good name. I think this is actually a setup that HBO had from the Barrera fight against Pacquiao, the first fight against Pacquiao, which just so this was a replay of the fight. So that's why we're watching old Bob here. But again, you mentioned getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was for this fight. It was, but I think we were watching the American coverage, obviously, with Larry Merchant and George Foreman. We probably had Ian Darke and Glenn McCrory, if I remember correctly. But like, there was so much hype around Naz, and I remember I was buying into it a little bit, but my dad be like, this Mexican guy is not gonna, and it's like the Barrera is class, and that's what you kind of get into real boxing fans. Even as a 9-year-old, I think you were that. You were in Barrera camp rather than in Naz camp.
100%, and that was such a strange thing. Like, I remember they kind of did like a 24/7 of it as well in the fight camps, and Emmanuel Stewart was brought in to Naz's corner for this fight and everything as well.
First thing I saw there was I didn't expect to see Stewart.
But it was only he only landed like 2 weeks before the fight.
Yeah.
Naz had such this air of confidence. He had left the Engel Stadium or the Engel Gym and everything at this time. He was really just going out on his own and thinking that he could do anything. But yeah, he came up against the baby-faced assassin, and
There we go. Here, the bells
my
just
idol and
rang.
hero.
The bells just rang. I remember those silver and blue Barrera shorts even so well. I don't know. There was just something about this fight that I completely get where you're coming from when you talk about it. But look at it there. Packed MGM Grand. It's the 7th of April 2001. So we're 2 weeks away from the 20th anniversary of this fight, believe it or not.
Yeah, and
And
the thing about one of the things that stands out in my mind, we didn't get to see it here, but was the ring entrance as well. There
yeah,
was such time and effort put into the ring entrance for Naz. He came in like a big circle circus thing, more you
yeah.
could nearly say, coming in from the sky. And it was an unbelievable. And I remember somebody threw a pint at him as well. You can see in the footage. So he didn't have it all his way from the very beginning to the ring walk.
I just saw him throw. He was so cocky, like, and Barrera hit him there, caught him after 1 minute of the fight. But just before
There,
that,
like it,
Hamed threw a backhanded jab, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody do before. But again, just like, I wonder when it entered his head, this isn't the guy to be messing with, or can you just not, like, if that's your style and it's been how you fought all along? One, you'd have a bit of belief in yourself, and two, you probably wouldn't be able to fight any other way.
Well, you see, Nas has had it. He's been able to do what he wants all his career and all his fights. Like he's always had his hands down. The one thing that made Nas was his punch power, and it was the one thing that kind of was his downfall as well because he depended on it so much, and he
Absolutely.
stopped so many fighters with it, and he could be trailing, but he just lands that one big shot and he can knock any man out. But he like Barrera's game plan coming into this fight was just very basic, just single jabs,
Yeah.
nice high defense, nothing crazy, nothing out of the blue, just very disciplined
Lovely
performance
left
from
hand
him.
jab there. Yeah.
Oh, like and his jab was key all night in this. And it wasn't a really devastating or hurting punch, but it just kept clipping Nas, and nobody hits Nas that often. So
Mm,
it frustrated him and made him, do
yeah.
things more than he normally would do.
And
So
kept them at a distance as well. Like, so when that was a huge left hand from Hammett there, I wonder, and didn't even phase Barrera. He's just, well, he never gave that impression anyway of being hurt, especially early in the fight. And
yeah,
that kind of body shot there as well.
there was no stage I think throughout the fight that Barrera looked to be in bother or looked to be phased. Like he really had a stone cold face throughout the whole fight, and
Yeah.
even throughout the build up to the fight, like he was so just. There's no emotions. There was no nothing there. He was there for one thing. And at
Oh,
this time, people
Hammett in a
thought
bit of trouble
Barrera.
there at the
Look
end
at
of the
look at
first.
that! Like
Yeah.
unbelievable that jab there. Like that's three jabs. Who catches Nas with three jabs in a
Yeah.
row like that? It was unbelievable. And I think after that first round, Nas knew, okay, I need to get my
Shook.
shit together here.
Mm.
And Barrera knew that I definitely can beat this guy.
Yeah.
And the funny thing about this fight was people thought Barrera was on the slide. People thought Barrera was coming to the end of his career here. And Nas was the big dog. Like
Yeah.
everyone was chatting about him. He'd already debuted in America in the States and made big waves, but yeah, Barrera's stone cold, even in the corner. Like there's no
Absolutely.
emotions, there's no nothing. He's just nice and cool, calm, relaxed. He knows it's a 12-round fight. Look at this.
Absolute beautiful combination
Look at
there.
that there. Like,
In fairness, Hammett standing up to it as well. You know what I mean? Not
oh yeah.
exactly a glass jar or anything like that, but they got it going for the second. Now, the thing about Barrera being on the slide is interesting, Jay, because they were both 27. They're the same age, these two guys. Again,
Yeah.
and Naz had been fighting since he was 17, but Barrera had been fighting professionally since he was 15 years old. He'd had well over 50 fights at this stage, and I think 3 fights before this, he'd lost the first of the trilogy with Eric Morales. And that was kind of his first big test, first loss. And maybe this was the guy to kind of catch a big name, a world champion, but this would really put Hamed on the map more so than maybe the Kevin Kelly fight a couple of years before. This would be the one that would launch him to superstardom. But they picked the wrong guy to come up against for a stepping stone, didn't they?
Like Barrera really, I think Barrera realized it in his career as well that people maybe did see him on the slide, and this was his chance now. This was his chance to really reignite himself and get his name back up there to the very, very top. And that's exactly what he did. Like, he's just, you see Naz even coming out in this round, like there's a more intensity with Naz. Like he's trying harder, which
Yeah.
Naz never really normally does. Like he usually just dances around the ring and lets shots go from every angle. But one thing that he says about Naz was he looks to be taking the shots well. He does take the shots well, but because his style and his stance, if you hit Naz, doesn't matter how hard the punch is, he usually goes off balance because he's
Mm.
never really planted. So
Yeah.
sometimes the shots can look more hurtful than they really are. It's just his
Right.
balance. He
Oh,
is
a
he
nice
is like in
wrestling
shorts.
takedown from Barrera
Look at
there.
this. Look, like these these parts now of the fight. These are the key parts to the fight. The
Yeah.
fight when it's not even happening. See when Barrera like nearly like a rhino dumped into the canvas whenever he was on top of him. This here just showed Naz zero respect. This showed Naz that you're not in England here no more. You're in
Yeah.
my backyard now, and I mean business. And these are the turning points to this fight. These are the ones that shook Naz up. Like
Yeah.
whenever Barrera got him on the ground there, he just rammed him into the ground 2 or 3 times.
Mm.
And Naz is like, what the hell is going on here? Like
Yeah.
nobody has treated me like this before. And this was the mental side of the game that started to crack Naz.
Yeah. This is a guy who was fighting in Mexico when he was 15 years old. He's not going to take any shit, but um, and it's going to be your own. It's the rules of the fight is. Oh, well, what a shot that was! But again, I think you're right. I think there's that idea that Naz is always a little bit off balance, and they can look a little bit more devastating than they are. Tell me about Naz's style of fighting. Now, as you said, it's a lot more serious in this round and it's less showy, but it is still his style of the left hand, the right hand down and the left hand kind of circling. It's like, is it all for show, or is that hard, would that be hard to fight against because you don't know
That
what's going to
that's
come?
a very difficult style to fight against. It's look, it can work in your favor and it can't work in your favor. The positives of the style like that is your opponent can't read you that well because your hands are at your waist. Like you can't see where they're coming from. Like when you're locked on eye vision with your opponent and the hands are down here, they're coming up out of that there contact.
Mm,
And it's hard to see these shots coming. And with Naz's speed and with Naz's power, it was massively uh very effective for him in his career. But then as you see now in this fight, the downside is he has no defense.
yeah.
His reflexes are the same as his shorts. He's like a leopard, like he is like out of a cat. But here's the replay here
Of
of
the
this here. Like
wrestling.
look at
Yeah.
the respect or the disrespect. Barrera, he didn't get saved, but the
He's
disrespect that he had, like he shoved him even harder into the ground. And he didn't care about anything. Like he just went in there and was like, "This is my night, and I'm going to take this away."
I have to say, in fairness to Hamed, now we're only 2 rounds and 10 seconds into the fight, but my memory of this was a lot more of a schooling than what we're seeing so far. And I do think he's getting beaten, but he's still on the front foot. He's still landing, especially early in the rounds. I don't know because the counter punches are just killing him as well though. So
Yeah,
maybe
like
maybe
it's
I'm
like
maybe I'm overestimating a bit of show again.
like Nas, like you look at this fight closely and you see the actual shots that are landing. Like look at Nas, he's here, he's nice and long, he's loose. He looks like he's pushing the fight, but anything he's throwing, they're not really landing that
Yeah,
clean. They're not really landing that flush. They're going off the side of the head. They're hitting gloves. The shots, like look at that, like those are the clean shots. When Barrera throws, he lands
mm,
and he knocks Hamed back. But like we can't get away from the fact that was pound for pound nearly one of the best in the world at this stage.
that's true.
Like,
Yeah, yeah,
and Barrera is just very basic, very simple, very much like the Russians and the amateurs. There's nothing out of the ordinary with the Russians. Everything's very basic and done very perfectly. But here you're just watching Barrera just be so calm, cool, and relaxed. But you look at the eyes in Barrera, like they don't come off Nas. He's laser focused, and he knows he has to be because their shots can come from anywhere.
Yeah. I tell you, it'll make you nostalgic for a full MGM Grand on a big fight night, wouldn't it? Maybe
Oh,
next year or even later this year, hopefully. But there was just a big fight feeling to this as well that's really palpable, even just watching it without sound here, you know. You mentioned to us when you talked last year about this fight, about a moment. You mentioned disrespect there, is that there was a moment that was one of your favorite things ever. You know where that's coming, do you? You'll be able to point it out.
it's near the end. It's
Near
near
the
the
end,
end.
yeah. We'll
Yeah,
talk
it's
about it
near the
when it
end.
gets there.
Yeah, we'll bring it up whenever it comes. It's my favorite part of the fight. Like anybody that has watched it, they probably know what I'm on about, or anybody that has listened to me talking about it. But like Barrera's sharpness here is just it's just levels above Nas's as well.
Yeah.
Like this is Nas forcing this fight as well, and you don't usually see Nas doing this. Like
Yeah,
he's
he's ready to
actually
counter
he
usually. Yeah,
actually has a boxing stance here, Nas. Do you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like he doesn't. He's usually more square on. He's usually throwing shots from his waist and hooks and every angle, but it looks like he's trying too hard
yeah.
here.
He's gotten Barrera's nose busted. I think both nostrils. The commentator was just saying, but again, I think you're right. It's the end of the third round there, in case anybody's not watching. But the he's going in, as you say, like trying to force the fight, but he's thrown punches from too far back that he doesn't have the reach for, and he's just setting himself up for a counter every single time. It's interesting to see. The three judges on HBO have Barrera only one ahead after these 3 rounds, which I think is probably slightly generous, but again, it just kind of shows to show Hammett isn't completely out of the fight. Can I ask you about the atmosphere in the ring, actually, right? So it's just, again, just putting yourself in there. When you watch a fight like this, you take in the whole thing. You see the shouts from the corner, the press side photographers, the crowd going mental, and then you have the referee and the commentators and the noise. When you're actually in the ring and there's an atmosphere around there, what are you aware of? Would a big cheer from the crowd get you going? Or is everything just a fighter in front of you?
Yeah, so it's unbelievable like the what the crowd can do, and you see this like throughout sports, like Olympic Games. You see home athletes in Olympic Games winning medals that they would never have probably won on different soils. But in boxing, like see when you hurt an opponent and you're and the crowd sees it and
Yeah,
revs you on,
yeah.
like that
There's
gives you
an
that
energy
extra
there, an
percent.
actual energy that comes through the building, isn't there? Yeah.
Exactly. And it can also go the other way. So say if you're hurt and the crowd sees you're hurt, but the crowd gets
Oh,
behind you, that's the things that can get you up. Look at these shots. Like look at
hurt
like
him there.
these
Yeah.
are hurtful shots. These
You know,
here
Hammett
are
is hurt when he sticks the smiley head out. I think that's
exactly. And
yeah.
but do you know the most annoying thing for Hamed here is he's getting hit. It's
Yeah.
not it's not that he's getting hurt. What's wrong with Nas is he's getting hit. Not many people can land these type of shots on Nas and not only land them, but land them effectively and hurt him. You
Yeah.
know, and this is like he's trying to go back here now more look to his older kind of a style of just being very
Loose. Yeah.
I don't care, like I don't
Yeah.
care, and then throwing shots. But Barrera's not falling into anything here. You know what I mean? He's not falling into any traps that Nas is trying to set. He's just Barrera's laser focus in this fight is just
It's
it's
unbelievable.
unbelievable.
He
Like,
gets his digs in, and then he's happy for Naz to chase him for a minute, and then he'll get in again. Like, yeah. So, like, we talked about the attacking style of Hamed. I don't want to talk too much about it. You know, only one fighter here, but it's just so unique, I suppose. Like the way, you know, his attacking style and what that does and how that might put off an opponent. From a defensive style, was it all cockiness, or is it that he trusted his movement, that he didn't need to? You see Barrera, his hands are up the
yeah,
entire fight. Naz has him down. It's such an amazing contrast. But he trusts his movement, that he can move out of the way and then catch you as you're in
it's
with
his
his hands ready to go,
reflexes.
ready to punch.
It's Nas's reflexes that give him the confidence to let his hands down. Like Nas, his reflexes and his agility, you know, his flexibility. like there's positions that Naz can get into don't even look human sometimes.
Yeah.
And when he throws punches, it looks like, how is it possible to throw a shot from there and land it?
Yeah.
That's what gives Naz his confidence, is his reflexes. It's able to get him in and out of trouble. It's able to just give him that confidence to leave his hands down at his
Yeah.
side, you know. But in this fight, it just Barrera was the sharper, faster opponent,
Yeah. And I
and
suppose, go on. So, sorry, I was just going to say the follow-up question to that, as we kind of at the end of the fourth round, he just stands there, trying to give a dead stare to Barrera, who does not give a shit, and walks off to his corner.
and that's a thing. That's a thing that Naz usually does, but
Yeah.
with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Whereas you see it in this fight, he's doing it, but I think to himself, he's like, "What is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
what am I up against, or what have I got myself into against this lad?" Like,
So the question I was going to ask, based on what you were saying there with Hamid's style, is the if you're there probably not many would have his reflexes in world boxing, you know, and he was, as you said, among the top, you know, pound for pound. He was definitely there, top 10 or whatever. But is it like there's a reason that a stance or whatever, a boxing style is seen as orthodox because it's tried and tested. Do you think that there's a limit to, no matter how good you are, no matter how flexible you are, no matter how good your reflexes are, there's a limit at when you get to the height of the height if you're going to fight in a completely different way than all the great boxers in history? Or is that
this
just he was a limit? Because they're two
this
different things, really, you know?
this is the proof that there is a certain time that you can't do that. Like, you know, this is the proof here that you're not going to get away with it all the time. I think it's great to have a few different styles in your armor that you
Sure,
can,
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean, that you can adapt to situations. But in boxing, like one shot can change everything. So having a good defense is key, and you know, your reflexes aren't always going to be on point either.
No, absolutely. It's funny you mentioned a few minutes ago about the roar of the crowd and how in all sports, Olympics, everything, it helps the home athlete. But I have to say, watching from somebody who's never been in the ring, that all sounds well and good, but not everybody is in a sport where somebody's trying to punch them in the face, you know. So the fact that
Exactly.
you still can take in that energy actually it's an interesting viewpoint from you, because I don't think all of us would realize that, you know, there's a lot more concentration when somebody's trying to knock you out than there is running around the track or whatever else that we do, play football.
Yeah, like I think every boxer is a little bit mad, you know what I mean, to do this sport. And you know, at the end of the day, boxers are like gladiators. We love to hear the roar of the crowd. And a lot of fighters, doesn't matter if it's a positive roar or a negative roar, it can rile fighters up one way or another. Like if somebody is roaring against you and booing you, like that can rise fighters to another level, you know, and be like, right, I'm going to prove all you wrong, and I'm going to put on a statement here tonight,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it depends on the fighter themselves, but here, like Nas is like Vegas is an unbelievable Mexican
Mm.
fan base in Vegas. And that's why Canelo has been there for years. Barrera has been there for years. Like this was literally in Barrera's backyard, and like, you know, and Naz isn't used to that. He's used to fighting in the UK and in Sheffield with all the
Mm.
UK fans behind him. But here he's getting caught. The fans are roaring. He's just way out of his comfort zone here, and it's leading to a lot of
Oh,
frustration for Naz. Like,
that was the first sign of
look
anything,
at
any kind of emotion from Barrera there. He called him on the two gloves.
this
Uh,
is pure confidence
that's what I
from
was going to say. He knows he has him, does he?
yeah, this is pure confidence now from Barrera. Like he's getting inside Naz's head, and he's doing it while he's hitting him. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's catching him and then telling him to come on. And like Naz just doesn't have the answers. You
No.
know, he definitely doesn't have the answers for Barrera. And he's hit Barrera some clean shots, hasn't affected him, hasn't hurt him. and he's like, what am I got to do here? Like
Yeah.
try and drive the boot on him or something. Like, it's like, how do I get this lad out of there?
And it's interesting because I agree with what you're saying about the story of the fight, but we see there the HBO scorecards have Hammett winning that round on all three, and they have him one behind on all three in the scorecard after 5 rounds. And again, maybe that's fair, but at the same time, it's like there's a wider picture, and I wonder, are we watching it with the bias of knowing, the outcome and whatever? But it just does feel like that there's a tapping away at the confidence that's as much winning the fight in the long run as the individual rounds at this point.
Yeah, and that's what I say. There's a lot of key factors in the fight, and like Barrera on the scorecards might not have won that round, but when Naz hit him and Barrera just waved him in, not hurt, not dazed, not staggered, anything like that. That was another mental point and another changing point in the fight, uh, on both boxers' minds. And these all take effect throughout the fight and put Naz like look at Naz, like he's in such a, I've never seen him actually box in such a boxing stance before.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I
no
mean?
other option.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he's still going after him, and Barrera just still looks comfortable as we're kind of mid round. The middle rounds are often kind of, oh, that's a big right hand from Barrera there.
Barrera,
But
like that's a cracking right hand. Like Nas threw a right hand about 20 seconds before that and just slid off Barrera's face, like didn't catch him clean. Barrera is the one that's landing the clean shots here. Like,
yeah,
and like Nas is really reaching now. He's really pushing it. He's trying too hard now. And you can see him there, even he's cocking his right hand now. You can see him, he's like shaking the right hand, ready to let it go. And
yeah,
this just isn't Nas. Like he's not fluent. He's not as elusive as he usually is, and that's because of Barrera's, such calm demeanor in there and such accuracy that's really making Nas think, how is this man catching me so much? Like he's
yeah.
really getting under his skin here.
Another huge shot there left from Barrera caught him, and
Yeah,
you can just hear, I've got the commentary very very low in my head, but you can hear that. I can't hear the commentary, but every now and then you can just hear this eruption
yeah.
from the crowd, which kind of feeds into what you were talking about a minute ago, of the atmosphere and the energy in there. Set the scene though for us, Jason. Right, so you're 9 years old at home. These were great nights, all the way through the 90s. The Tyson Holyfield fights for me, and the Steve Collins, Eubank, all that kind of stuff. Even the early Nas fights were all huge. And then kind of you're a few years younger than me, so these were your kind of fights like this. But this was a great era of staying up all bloody night watching
Oh, like
watching fights in Las Vegas. And there was so many of them back then. There was so many like superstars of the game. But set the scene for me. What do you do? You're sitting up, you're begging your parents to let you stay up.
Oh yeah, like my father, like he's obviously a big boxing fan as well. So he was staying up, and I remember I was like, if I fall asleep, make sure and wake him. Make sure and wake me. Don't let me sleep through the fight. Like I don't want to wake up in that morning time and miss the fight. So like I'm just at home. I remember it was the first time I've ever like had goosebumps as well, like watching this fight. I was a real fan like of Barrera, like one of those kids that look up to like a Ronaldo or a Messi. Like that's what Barrera was to me.
Yeah.
And I was just watching it and thinking, this is unbelievable. Like here, look, you even see now if people's watching this fight on YouTube, like you see the likes of Lennox Lewis at this fight, like the massive names that was at this fight, and
Yeah.
there was loads of actors and everything, and even me just sitting at home watching this and seeing all that, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
she's not there at that fight and there at this fight. It was just such an event. But what makes it so special is it's such an event, and Barrera was such an underdog. People thought like that that's what made it so big was the outcome of the fight and how the fight went. Because everyone was
Yeah.
like, oh, this is a massive fight. Naz is going to go on and destroy Barrera. But it was completely the other way around. Like,
It's interesting you say that actually, because in a weird way I compare it to when Ricky Hatton went over to fight Mayweather and Pacquiao, and like it wasn't as if Hatton wasn't a great fighter and had some great wins, but you realise on those 2 nights that even at his best, he was just that level below two of the best of all time. Let's face it, like, so it's no mark on Hatton. But I think most of us knew that was going to be the case, but there was a hope and there was an English media hype and there was so on and so forth. As
One
we
of one of one of the things that I
barrage.
remember, one of the things that I
Oh,
remember about the Hatton Mayweather was Hatton always had a big fry the morning of the fight, like after the weigh in and everything like this. He'd
yeah.
always a big fry. So he had porridge the morning of the Mayweather fight and got beat, and everybody was coming out saying, "Oh, he should have had the fry." It's mad the way people can change their decisions on how on how the fight turns out. Like it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with Mayweather being the pound for pound best in the world.
No, 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 no. I suppose my point was though like that as well, that Hatton there was a belief there that was based on hope, I think, more than anything.
Of
Whereas with
course.
Hamed, you're saying, and it's funny because I thought it was along the same lines, but you're saying that there was a boxing consensus that he was going to go over there and do it. Yeah,
100%. Like this was set up for Hamed to become the next big thing in America as well. But like as we can see here now, we're into the seventh round,
yeah,
and Barrera is still as sharp as ever, and Barrera's starting now to be that little bit more aggressive as well.
a lot
He's
harder
starting to
shots. You can tell
yeah,
even just from
starting
his
to let the
stance. Yeah,
shots go a wee bit harder because he's slowed Nas down now. Nas isn't as elusive, isn't as effective as he was early on, and Barrera is starting to punish him now for that. And
yeah.
like it's
Isn't
just
that see Nas here thrown like he's after since he was hit there a minute ago? He's thrown about 10 jabs straight on, and he's keeping Barrera away. He needed to do more of that, didn't he? He didn't.
but you look at his jabs that he's throwing, like
They're not.
they're nothing in them.
Yeah, no, that yeah,
Like
they're just.
Barrera is Mexican. Like he is as hard as they come. You need to be hitting him with 6-inch blocks to
Yeah,
make
they're
him
just
think about.
slaps.
Yeah, like they're just flicking him out there. They're flicking the shots out there. They're tickling his face more than they would be hurting him. Like you know what I mean?
It does
But
seem to get him going though when he just lands a few, even if he's not hurting them. You know, his confidence as well. But
oh yeah, like because he knows if here he is. Look at him. He's trying to get back to himself. He's bouncing up and down on his feet now,
yeah.
and he's turning more square on and letting real wild shots go. But
Oh, another lovely left from Barrera.
nothing is lovely. Like them jabs there are just
Feather.
no, they're but Barrera's jabs are
Oh,
just
Barrera.
like
Sorry, I
yeah,
thought. Yeah, yeah,
Barrera's
yeah.
jabs are just like look at those like dude, that there is unbelievable. Like that is top drawer boxing there. Like those jabs are they're perfect. Like right on the chin, moving as well out of the backhand. That's one thing that Barrera did very well there. He was jabbing over Hamed's jab, so he was leaving Hamed exposed. So
Yeah.
Barrera was throwing the jabs here and moving around that way. So Hamed was kind of chasing him and not being able to, and he couldn't let his backhand go because Barrera was over here,
Mm.
and that was his danger one. That was the one that he knocks everyone out with, and he couldn't get it landed because of his moving, because of the way that he was throwing his jab, looping it in over Hamed's jab is just like absolutely
Yeah.
pinpoint.
How much of
Perfect.
that is organized tactics and how much of it is ring instincts of somebody who's been fighting every 2 weeks since he was 15 and knows
a
every
lot of
inch of the
a
ring?
lot of it is instinct, but the majority, probably 70-80% of that is just hard work and
Yeah.
working on a game plan. Like when he's moving to his left there the whole fight and throwing that jab, that is a game plan that they have been working on throughout the whole camp. This is something that they says this is what's going to beat Hamed, and they're
Yeah.
spot on. Like this is a boxer now, but people say that boxing is an individual sport. This goes to show that boxing is such a team sport. Like this is Barrera's whole team watching videos for weeks and months leading up to this
Mm.
fight, coming up with game plans, looking at it, tweaking things, changing things, getting in and sparring and doing these things in a spar.
Yeah.
And like everything is just falling straight into place now. Like every single time, there you see it again is Barrera's jab over the top of Hamed's jab and just leaving Hamed exposed in and not able to throw anything back.
Yeah. No, it's a really good insight you give actually, because I'm seeing it now since you say it, that when Hamed has the center of the ring as he does now, Barrera's always moving to his left, throwing the left,
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
left, throwing left, moving left.
And
And then
see,
so much so that Hamed gives up the center a good bit, and we'll just let
exactly.
him.
But you see here as well, another key part of this fight that people mightn't see as much is the actual body shots that Barrera is throwing. Like when Hamed comes in, and throws shots and leaves himself wide open. But Barrera stays in the pocket. Look at that. What a right hand. Like
Unbelievable,
just
yeah.
timing, he's just timing Hamed to perfection. Everything that Hamed throws, Barrera's coming back with something better. But going
Yeah.
back to the body shots, whenever Hamed was throwing shots, he was leaving himself very wild and exposed. So Barrera stayed in the pocket and just let 2 or 3 body shots rip. And those are the things then that later on in the fight now, we're flying through this fight. Like it's the eighth
Fighting
round already.
Southpaw here as well. Just mixing things up. Yeah, nearly at the end of the eighth. And yeah, I think Barrera's clearly on top, but he's doing a bit of chasing now, which he wasn't doing earlier in the fight as
Yeah.
well. These are the scoring rounds, I suppose.
Like
The
there hasn't been much clinching in this fight for Nas
No,
being
very
such
little.
a reckless fighter. Like he's usually getting himself into positions where he needs to hold on, or the other opponent's holding him on to keep him in the one place. Whereas Barrera's, it's a very clean fight so far until a certain point in the until a certain point in the fight later on.
Yeah, there's the end of the eighth. So that's another
Yeah,
clatter there just beforehand from Barrera to just kind of like just stop dead on Naz's jaw, which is not exactly what you want as a fighter just before the bell. But they have, just looking at the scorecards there, they all have Barrera up 1-4 and 2-2. So we're kind of
yeah.
starting to see it as the fight that we've been calling it as now on the scorecards. 4 rounds left to go. These are tough rounds. If you've been getting a little bit of a schooling, it's gonna start really, really getting into your legs now, isn't it? And into your arms trying to throw
And
punches.
that's what I'm saying about those
Yeah.
body shots that Barrera has been throwing. Like this is the stage now where it starts to wear Hamed down. Here's a few highlights. Look at this right hand. Like that is just unbelievable. That's pure confidence and anticipation as well from Barrera and himself to be able to just stay there and wait the Hamed to make the mistake, slip and bang. You know,
Yeah.
it's probably one of the best performances I've seen from a boxer. Like probably being a bit biased too because I love Barrera, but the
Well, there's a
performance
reason. There's a reason you're biased for Barrera. You have no kin to him, as they say. You're a fan of him for a reason. Just in case
yeah,
anybody has lost the play or anything like that, we're just at the start of the ninth round here. We're 34, 35, 36, 37 into the YouTube video as we kind of have the last the championship rounds here, the last 4 rounds of the fight. It's been brilliant so far. It's been really enjoyable. Just before we get into, there's going to be a lot of the actual fight to talk about, but I do want to talk. You mentioned Barrera. You mentioned how big a fight this was for Hamed and how this was set up for him to win. It's I didn't realize that, I think, and I know that Barrera's coming off the loss to Morales. This is such a massive fight in his legacy, because this kicked him on to beating Morales in the next 2 fights. To obviously he lost to Pacquiao in between them, but the reason Marco Antonio Barrera is such a worldwide legend is because possibly his longevity, the amount of big fights he has, and the Morales trilogy in particular. Who's to say if he loses to Hamed here, he loses 2 out of 4 fights that we ever go on to that?
yeah. So like Barrera and the Morales fights will always go down in history and will always be remembered for boxing fans and for mainly America, Mexican, all that type of era, those type of people as well. But when he beat Nas was such an icon inside and outside of boxing
Yeah.
that made Barrera's name even bigger in the UK and to non-boxing fans. So this here fight was just this was a turning point in Barrera's career, big time, in both of their careers, really, because Naz
Absolutely.
never really came back after this. Like,
He
I
had,
think he might have one fight.
he had one fight almost exactly a year later. He won it, and you have to wonder. I mean, he was 27. He was 28 when he fought again. Do you think, like, who knows? He'd made some money. He'd been world champion. He'd had a great career, but he never came back in the face of adversity, and it was always a surprise. And because he was so young, you were waiting 3-4 years to see what would happen, and it never did. Do you think his battle
Yes.
went? That was often the thing that was accused of him, at least.
Yeah, well, like, it's hard to say. No one obviously training with the Engels before, and the structure that he had around him. Then, like, Naz
Oh,
grew up upstairs above. Oh, like, look at this. Look, this is. I think this. Like, look at that there. Like, this is just nobody hits Naz like this. Nobody catches and hits Naz this much.
yeah. If
Like
anyone
that.
didn't
Like,
see that there, Barrera landed with about 4 shots on the chin. Naz stands at him, looks, and starts roaring at him like a lion
yeah,
about 4 times,
and it
and then
just
points to his chin.
taps his chin at
Yeah.
the end of it, like, as if to say, but like,
You can't
totally
hurt me, but
did
that's all very
nothing.
well, mate. But you're the one to getting hit, like,
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. But just go back to the story of Naz. Like
yeah,
he grew up above just a normal little convenience shop in Sheffield, like upstairs in a flat with his family, brothers and sisters, everything like that. And Brendan Ingle was the man that took Naz in, and that really fathered and looked after Naz and
yeah,
brought him down the right path. And I think when Naz parted ways with Ingles, I think it really showed that he had no backbone no more. He had no structure no more. He had nothing to come back to. He had nobody to console him after this defeat and put him right back on the track again. I think that's where he fell off, and that's why he never really came back after this fight.
yeah. Like what they say with Mike Tyson and
Costomato.
yeah, Customato, yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah.
So you can see that the last 4 rounds all to Barrera, which
I
again sort
think
of tells the story we've been talking about.
I think it's in this round or the next round now could have been a massive turning point in this fight.
Okay.
Barrera gets a little bit dirty and a little bit
Oh
naughty
my
here
God.
now.
What a combination that was from Barrera.
Unbelievable, like.
Just beautiful. Like just the speed of going from 1 to 2. It's what people like us who just watch boxing and never in the ring are always in awe of. It is the beautiful thing to see, that combination and skill. Not the easiest thing to manage in a fight, I would imagine. And every time you do, it feels like a game changer.
But like, and what makes it even more special is for a man that never barely gets hit in Naz, like, Barrera is landing on him at will. Like,
Yeah.
anytime Barrera throws, he's landing.
Yeah. Tell me about the body punches before and feel free to interrupt when it all gets dirty, as you know it's
Yeah,
coming.
yeah, yeah.
We mentioned Hatton earlier, and that was a nice shot by Naz there. Actually, we might come back to this. This looks like it's getting a bit juicy here.
It's getting heated up now, so it is. Yeah, yeah. Now there's Barrera coming back again. Like,
Yeah.
Naz has never been in control of this fight at
Oh,
all.
there's
Like,
another
he
lovely shot to the ribs that just
was
casual, barely mentioned, but
exactly.
just dig all the way through the fight. And that's what I was saying. The body fight, the body punch I remember most is that one in Hatton. Was that Mayweather or Pacquiao? One of them knocked him out with that body punch, put him down on his knees.
Put who down?
Oh, sorry, was it Hatton putting Costa Zoo down? Wasn't it? That's what I'm thinking of. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah,
getting all
yeah,
kinds of confused. It was a Ricky Hatton
yeah.
body punch. But I just remember it's like, so you rarely see a knockout from a body punch. I'm saying, but you'll always know the co-com who's a boxer is always saying, "Oh, that body shot, that's the one." You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
whereas the
yeah.
rest of us are looking for the shot that in the chin or the eye cut
Exactly.
or so
It's
on and
it's
so
those
forth.
body shots that take the
You
wind
can't
out of your
recover from them.
sails.
Yeah,
You can't recover from them, and like, I think De La Hoya was never stopped until Bernard Hopkins, and that was with a body shot. Like, like,
yeah,
these are the types of things that it's the body shots that really slow a fighter down. That take it's like if you ever played Fight Night or anything like that. There, PlayStation game. If you're hitting away at the body, it takes more out of the energy of the fighter than the actual
Yeah,
headshots
yeah,
do.
yeah. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, exactly. So look, like this, like look at Nazi as a smirk on his face going back into the corner here now, but
Yeah,
that's not a
his wife
smirk as
cheering
in
him
to
on.
be like, I have this. This is a
No,
smirk like I'm in bother here. Like, what do I do?
yeah.
You know, he's never been in this position before. But one
It's
thing I
a
have
it's a
to
I'm not bothered sort of look, isn't it? Like he knows
exactly,
that he's in trouble. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Do you think it's funny you were saying that he actually landed a really good shot there, and you were like, he's never had Barrera flustered. That's actually the key for Barrera is that he was hit a few times, but Hamed never had that chance to come bearing down. He never had him in trouble where he could
Yeah.
go and maybe pick a punch and maybe use that. You know, we always talk
Barrera
about a
has,
puncher's chance,
yeah,
but he never had the chance to hit him.
Barrera has always been very compact. Like even if Nas hit him, he's been very compact with a nice tight and high defense, and he's never been able to get back in there and to land consecutive shots. He might get one or two in. Like here's Barrera really coming for it now. I
Yeah,
think I remember the commentators in this fight were translating the corner that Barrera's team actually thought that it was a lot closer than what it was.
right. Okay. I was gonna
But
say because Hamed's the one who needs a knockdown, but I said or knockout. But I suppose you can never. One, they probably thought it was closer, and two, you can never trust. Uh, you can never trust the superstar they're trying to make. You know,
exactly,
you
and
never
I
trust
think
the judges, and
that's what the fear was in Barrera's corner more than anything. And this is a vital round now, like
yeah.
because the
Larry
two
Merchant just saying, or Emmanuel Stewart there actually is doing an interview live during the fight here, saying that Hamed needs a knockout, which is really
yeah
interesting. I don't think I've ever heard a corner man talking in the middle of a round on an
yeah
interview before.
they've actually started only doing that recently again. I see now,
Right.
like there was a lovely body shot, a big hook, lead left hook into the body from Barrera. Like in these rounds as well, that is just that's zapping the energy clean out of Nasruddin. And there's the
Yeah.
jab. Like he's just so much sharper, so much more punch selection coming from Barrera as well. Like that's a simple jab. Look, like he's teeing off on Nas a little bit here now. So he is like he's catching him
He
too
is, yeah.
easy and too
Yeah.
clean.
But if Hamed's been chasing the whole fight and he's been running around, like his legs must be gone now. I don't think you can. I mean, I don't think I'll ever understand that. You will, but like, I mean, you must after 11 rounds of boxing,
It doesn't
and
matter.
you
It
must just
doesn't
be
matter
dead.
how fit you are or what kind
Yeah,
of training you do. If you're getting hit with body shots and you have an opponent on you, tramping you down, just grinding it out of you, like there's no worse place to be than
yeah.
than in a boxing ring. Like,
I don't want to be. I'll probably make a habit of this, to be honest. I don't want to come soft in a way, but like when we're doing these fights, but you know the respect you have for. I always feel like Barrera's only underscored exactly what you've been saying about this fight when we've
oh,
talked about it before, and he's so good, and it's an even better performance that I remembered. But I have to say, despite being, I think, schooled here and maybe come up to
oh.
the hype was too much, and he was never that good. I'm actually impressed that Hamed is still rocking the shapes. He's standing up
He
to it. He's a lot tougher than he's given credit for in the history books of the fight because
without
he
a doubt.
lost this and never came back. There's a sense that
Without a
he
doubt,
wasn't tough, but he was.
Nas is hard. Like you know what I mean. He's tough and like he's taken some big shots there from Barrera, body and head, and like he's still there, like, and he's still trying. He's still going for it. But there's nobody gonna doubt his heart. Like you know what I mean. And he
Yeah.
still has that cockiness of staring at him like getting absolutely hammered throughout the fight. And he's still staring at him after the rounds. Like
Yeah. Well, I think everybody gave that to Barrera as well. So we've got three. We've got him up. We've got Barrera up three with a round to go, and up five in another scorecard, up 3-2.
yeah.
In case you're not watching, so we've got one round left to go. Um, you're thinking Barrera has this fight won because you can't see him being knocked out. But I suppose you just never know if you're watching this live. What way judges are looking at things. but Hamed just looks exhausted. Like, I mean,
Yeah, like
he
looking,
does
just looking now in both
when he knows the
corners, like
camera's on him, he's a different man
yeah,
than when he's there in the corner. He looked absolutely
100%.
beat, didn't he?
Like look at Barrera's eyes. Like eyes are still focused, still lasered, listening, being very attentive in the corner. Whereas Nas head's kind of down. You know what I mean? Look, there's worry there in Naz's face, like coming into this round. This is a massive round now. This is where my favorite part is now. So it is, but this is a massive round now because Barrera's corner think it's pretty close. Nas and them know that like he's caught him clean there again,
Yeah.
like backhands.
There we go again.
Look, like
Another one. Every time he goes
double
in.
double backhand jabs, like nobody has ever caught, and I've said this numerous times now, like
Oh my
nobody has
God.
ever caught him like this. Look at this, unbelievable. And look at him, look at Barrera, look at him hitting him still.
Not
Like
respected the break. Yeah.
this is
Two
why I
clean
love
body shots
Barrera. Like
there.
look at that. Like this is why I love Barrera. He's so ruthless when he's in there as well. Like he is so ruthless and he doesn't care about anything or anybody. Like he's in there to win this fight and win it no matter what. And like this is just an unbelievable round already. There's only a minute gone in this round.
Yeah.
Like Barrera's all over him. Like Naz is
Yeah.
very disorientated in this round. He's all over the place.
He wouldn't have lasted 15, I don't think, would he? Not that anybody
No,
would these days,
yeah,
but you
yeah.
know,
Nah, like
he didn't have much left really. I don't think Hammett,
no.
and I think this might be where our memory of the devastation of this fight comes from, is this final round.
Yeah,
Because so far, if anybody's not watching, it is one worth checking out, because Barrera is absolutely, he's hitting him at will, and he's coming in and out with clean shots to the face
Barrera's
constantly.
really turned up the tempo and turned up the pace in this round as well. Like his volume of shots are a lot more. His intensity
Oh,
is a lot more.
here you go,
Like
Jay.
there we go. Look at this. Like right. So the special thing about this here is right. See when Barrera did this. Do you know
Yeah.
what Barrera says to him? And he said it to him in English. He rammed him into the corner and says, "Who's your daddy?" Like this is unbelievable. But look, Barrera gets a point taken off him here for that, which
Yeah,
could have been very
could have
silly.
been
And look at
important.
Hamed,
Yeah,
looking to shake hands after it. And
yeah.
Barrera should be the one shaking hands and saying sorry because he's the one that fouled play. Look at
Yeah.
this.
So in case anyone
Oh,
didn't see, what happened there was Hammond came in with a wild punch, went off balance, and Barrera jumped in behind him almost with a sort of a headlock and pushed him up against the corner.
like
Like,
a wrestling, like
yeah,
something you would see
exactly.
in
Yeah.
WWE.
On the back of his head, and was around him. And as you said, maybe said, what did he say? Who's your daddy?
He rammed him into the corner and says, "Who's your daddy?"
So
Like,
Naz comes
and
out with a big smile on his face and a fist out to shake hands. Barrera ignores him and gives him a 1-2.
and the reason that I know this is because my good friend and golden boy Robert Diaz was Barrera's manager at this time,
It's
and
over.
um, and he told me everything about it. Like he told me
Yeah.
what it was all about. He asked his team. He says, "How do you say in Spanish?
Mm,
Who's your daddy?" Like he wanted to translate it into English to be able to
amazing.
say it to Hamed, and like they know they've won the fight.
Yeah, so it's just over here. Barrera is up on the shoulders. He, as you said, this is such a, again, our lens for this at the time, 20 years ago, was through the British press. So while they might have been talking about Barrera and stuff like this, again, it's only
There's
kind of
Robert
now I'm
Diaz
realizing how
there.
big a fight this was.
That's
Where's
Robert Diaz giving
giving the hug?
Barrera a hug there. Yeah.
So Hamed's up on the shoulders, but you see the immediate reaction. The ref almost taking him as if he'd been beaten. His wife cheering him on, but looking really upset. It was a
Yeah.
clear win, but as Emmanuel Stewart talks to Barrera there's just so many faces in this crowd. You mentioned Lewis, you mentioned obviously Stewart in the ring. It's unbelievable to look back at 20 years later.
There's the scorecard now, Howard Letterman's scorecard. He has it 115, 112 Barrera. And the last round was a draw because Barrera won the round but got a point taken off him for ramming Hamed into the corner post.
It was a borderline 10-8 round, that wasn't it? I mean, like, that's what I
Yeah.
said. If you haven't been watching this with us and you just want to, like, the whole fight does tell a great story, we'd encourage you to watch it. But even just to watch that 12th round to see what we've been talking about would be totally worth your while. As we go to the decision,
Here we go.
it's our boy Michael Buffer. He's still going strong. Hasn't aged a day in the last
He's
20 years, has he?
unbelievable. He's like something out of Madame Tussauds. Like he hasn't changed.
He was going 20 years at this point, and so there's Barrera announces the winner. That's how
Unbelievable.
much. Look, I mean, not to bring it like to yourself, Ratton, but like, you experience a defeat for the first time once, and no, I don't know. It's always going to be a surprise. That was going to be a bit of a
Look
sucker
at the
punch,
Mexicans. Look at the Mexicans going mental. Like
Their
they
big hats,
knew
the big
what
sombreros.
they knew what that meant. But sorry for interrupting, but like
No, you're fine.
one of the things there is like how humble Naz was in defeat.
Yeah, he
Like
was. Yeah,
people, I think, were very surprised by that, and Naz was very humble in defeat, and it was a good thing to see after it because he just knew he was in with a much better opponent and just got his ass kicked, really. Like.
yeah. You find that's often the case with some of the more bombastic sports people, isn't it? It's like once it's that moment is the moment of humility. They might, by the time they're in the press conference, they might be back talking shit again. But there is that mano a mano sort of moment where this guy beats you, and it's like there's a natural sort of humility to go and say, "Well done, you're the man," isn't it?
Yeah, well, like
Yeah,
there's nowhere in the world where you'll gain respect for somebody more than in a boxing ring. Like you see fighters that absolutely hate each other in the lead up to a fight, and after it they become lifelong friends. You see the likes of Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward, like
yeah,
they were in hospital beds beside each other the day after the fight. Like I remember my fight against Glenn Tapia. Like, that was my first real kind of difficult, hard fight. 10 rounds. Obviously, I broke my hand and everything in that fight, but we were after that. There, we had to get checked out by the doctor and everything. That Tapia, I heard, had to go into hospital, and I was sitting after my fight the next day, and we were just chilling, and I was sore, I was stiff, I had a black eye. I was like, April and my friends, and nobody knew how I felt. Like they had no clue.
yeah.
So I messaged Tapia, and I says, "Hey, how you feeling today? Great fight last night. I hope you're feeling good. Hope everything goes well in the hospital. But fuck me, I'm sore today." Like because nobody understands. Like you've went through that with somebody.
It's an
You
experience. So even though you're against each other in opposition and literally
exactly.
poking the head off each other,
You were in
you're
it
the only two who
together.
were there who did it. Yeah,
Exactly. And
it's
there's
Rocky and Apollo Creed, isn't
exactly.
it?
There's nowhere else in the world you'll find respect or a friendship for someone through that there. Like just take away the boxing side of it and talk to someone and say, I was just out in the street, I had 30 minutes solid fight with somebody, and next thing we're best friends.
Yeah,
Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
I
it's
know.
crazy, but in boxing, that's what happens. Like, you
Yeah,
go toe to toe, and we all know, I think, what's on the line whenever we get into the ring as well. That whenever we come out one loser draw, I think we have the respect for opponents, and I think that's why people love the sport so much as well. Like, from very well-to-do people to working class people to even people lower, like everyone loves boxing. There's no like genre for boxing. There's no
yeah,
type of person that just everybody loves boxing. Like, and yeah, there's just that was great. Now I really,
yeah. That was the
really,
fight
really
that made you
enjoyed
love
watching that
boxing.
one back.
Yeah, or at least the cemented your love of boxing, I suppose. It was the fight you mentioned to us last year. I've been dying to watch it actually, and I'm really, really glad I did. And I hope you enjoyed rewatching it. And if you've been watching along with us, I hope you enjoyed some brilliant insights from Jay as well. We're gonna do this a couple of more times. We've got a great fight lined up next week. I still will never forget the emotion of the ups and downs of the fight we're going to talk about next week, which is Bernard Dunn and Cordoba for the world title in 2009. That must have been one of the most topsy-turvy fights that ever happened, and it was for a world title. As the biggest night of Bernard Dunn's career.
Yeah,
So
unbelievable. Can't wait to watch that again. Like, it's like, we need that type of boxing back in Ireland again. That's what we need back in Ireland,
yeah,
and it's
yeah.
going to be great to watch.
And look, if it's you and you're winning the world title and it's back in Ireland, I just hope you don't get as much punishment as Bernard did that night, even if the result is the same.
Me as well. But I'm willing to take twice as much to get a world title. So
I know you are.
It's going to be interesting.
I know well you are. Well, listen, I hope you enjoyed our first big fight watch along, our classic fight watch along. We're going to Marco Antonio Barrera beating Prince Nassim Hamed back in 2001, 20 years ago in 2 weeks. That fight was so a nice little anniversary watch back there. Again, next week we'll be back with Bernard Dunn and Cordoba, which I can't wait for, and we'll have a few more with Jay as well. He's going to be with us. We'll talk more about what's happening with Jay, and don't forget as well, you can watch the big fight, Dillian White and Alexander Povetkin this weekend. If you're having a bet on Ladbrokes, please do gamble responsibly. Visit dunlewy.net for more information. We'll be back with you next week. Take it easy.